Kira, my little, fronted and actually stole something. Hi everyone, my name is Evie. For those that are new, I am the co-host. I'm 20, and basically the co-host is, when the host isn't here, I am the next in line. I am the most prominent. A little bit of a backstory, I'll put a video down below, but today I'm just going to talk about system responsibility. And for those that don't know, people with DID, such as myself, have alters, and the alters may front and cause a little trouble or, stir up a little bit. Sometimes you may have an alter that is toxic or very abusive, such as a persecutor or an introject. They might cause issues in a social surrounding, or sometimes you have a little that will, front and freak out if they feel uncomfortable or lost. And a lot of the times in this phenomenon, the host or the co-host will come back and say, it wasn't me. Now, what do you do when you meet someone with DID who uses this statement? It wasn't me, they did it. A lot of the times people will go, oh, it's a he-she situation. You don't really know what the truth is, because let's face it, we're all in the same body. So with that being said, it is very hard for someone new that isn't used to this or is just getting exposed or introduced to a mental illness or diagnosis as complex and rare as DID, for them to think, wow, this person is very manipulative. Wow, this person is very toxic. That is not the case. It is actually a lot more deeper than that. It's very stressful on people with DID. And let's get started in talking about it. So, DID. For those that are new to my channel, you should know that I've talked about this multiple times. It is a diagnosis that is so rare that, you will only see it in movies, a really bad representation like Split, or, you'll see people online who may use it as a scapegoat. I'm in no way, making fun of people like that or saying people like that are rude or horrible people, but with DID, it can be lonely and it can feel like you're by yourself and you don't know what to do. It shouldn't get bad representation, and just adding to bad representation, it also equals more horrible stigma. And that by itself can make anyone with DID feel horrible or unable to feel at all. A lot of us feel like we can't function properly with the time that we have, or feel disconnected, and that is wrong. We should be able to live life and connect, be happy, and with all of that, we should have this kind of stigma. We deserve patience and understanding, and yeah. And with this being said, if you do have DID, you have to learn how to take responsibility for all of your alters. I know I'm getting a lot of crap for that. I have DID, and I bet if someone else watching this, they'll say, how can you say that if it wasn't me? Because I've had DID, I've been officially diagnosed for about a little over 5 years, but I've had it for much longer. And I can tell you that it only makes things worse for you to blame it on someone else. As crap as that sounds, as messed up as it sounds, this is all that we get. We have to learn how to carry ourselves in a very respectful manner. We have to learn how to speak up for ourselves, and we have to learn our rights and get accommodations for it, because DID is so rare that not even a lot of therapists will study in it or use it in their practice or specialize in it. So it's very hard for us to find help. So have you ever been in a relationship and with a person with DID or at all, and they say it wasn't me? A lot of the times, me myself have said that. My mom and anyone else will testify that they heard that I've done something, and I will come back and say, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do that. And people get very frustrated. People don't understand. And patience is very hard to come by in today's society. And sorry about that. What was I saying? Yeah, system responsibility. For those that don't know, people with DID have a little. This is our little. Her name is Kira. And Kira fronts a lot. Kira, we've taken a lot of precautions in getting tons, this is only one example, but tons and tons of coloring books, stuffed animals. If anyone has been on our TikTok, you will see that Kira will only present herself with her one Stuffle. And there is no name to that Stuffle. She just calls him Stuffle and she carries it everywhere. But Kira, imagine this. Someone you go to school with, 20, like a teenager between 16, now 20 years old, and is out of high school, acts like a 7-year-old. It can be very confusing, very strange. But Kira, we've gotten lost outside many, many times. Our mother has actually put medical ID bracelets on us many, many times. Because you don't, with DID, unless you have a scheduled system, you do not know who's coming out and when. So, let's get started. Littles are basically, alters that your brain split off and broke off at that age. Whether you were abused at that age or traumatized, your brain stops, breaks off into a fragment at that age, thus making a little. We have a little. And let's talk about other kinds of alters. There's gatekeepers, there's mentors, there's me, the co-host, there's persecutors, and introjects. There's negative, there's positive. But at the end of the day, it always comes down to he said, she said. It wasn't me. That was Kira. It wasn't me. That was Lily. It wasn't me. That was Emily. It's very, very stressful because what you have to understand is that when you meet someone with DID, they need your patience. But at the end of the day, we all have to learn how to take responsibility, because DID isn't supposed to be used to get you out of trouble. As the host, you have to take responsibility for whatever gets thrown your way or whatever the dice rolls. And it is unfair, and we are not toxic people. We are not dangerous people. We're just misunderstood. As cheesy as that sounds, that is the truth. We are misunderstood. And a lot of the times, dissociating, it's hard. It's hard, it's scary. The way how I always saw it was that it's like looking at yourself in the mirror and not seeing and not realizing or even not recognizing yourself or who's looking back. It's looking at yourself but hearing another voice come out. It is the voices in the back of your head telling you what you should be doing. It is the many different memories that pop up in your head that you don't even remember experiencing. That's what it's like. Constant confusion, constant stress, consistently always on your feet, trying to get a breath of air and just stability. And for the past 5 years, we've managed to get that kind of stability somehow. But it didn't come easily. Nothing ever comes easily, whether you have depression, whether you're just simply having a bad day, nothing comes easily. And as of right now, taking care of 11 different people, everyone is always so different. It's been very hard. So I'm actually going to tell you a story about the time to where I've experienced it wasn't me phenomenon. And although I have experienced it many, many times before, this one stands out the most because it was the most recent and it actually took effect on another person. And this is something that every day I wish I can take back, or at least remember why it went down that way, but I can't. So let's get started, shall we? So about a year ago, or no, almost 2 years ago, yeah, me and my mother moved into an apartment complex, and it was fine, but I want to say maybe less than 6 months in, around 12 in the afternoon, my mother calls me up crying, saying the police are coming, or the landlord is threatening, or we're getting evicted. Why? Because we stole something. That is right. We took something that wasn't ours, which is theft. It is robbery. It is illegal. And I do not remember doing it. It wasn't me. Now, on that day, I can say for the most part, on that day, I do remember getting tired, and I remember allowing Kira to come out. And, Kira is basically, even though she's our little, a lot of the times, Kira, when I get tired, or when everyone else is doing something inside, Kira comes out. And Kira, even though she's 7, she should know right from wrong. On that day in particular, she took something. She took a package from another person in the building, and it was caught on tape, and we all got in trouble for it. So I'm explaining this very, 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 not in detail, but when you don't really remember something and you only are told what happened, it's hard to really scrounge out facts. But basically what happened was that I do remember coming back out and freaking out because my mom was upset. And I tried to make it right by going over and talking to the landlord and showing her information on our dissociative identity disorder. I did everything to make sure my mom didn't have to pack everything up and leave. But in the policy, it says that if someone underneath that roof, or someone that the caretaker of that room or whatever knows about that person, and that person does something against the policy, like stealing, everyone in that unit has to leave. And I was so distraught, stressed out at the fact that I allowed something that bad to happen. I knew Kira was a very curious girl. I knew that she was a very, touchy person. And I knew that she had tendencies to take things and hide things that wasn't hers. And I allowed her at that time, to come out by herself, and I let it happen, and there is no one else to blame for myself. And while you're thinking there, wow, I bet a lot of people are saying, what you're talking about like she's a whole different person. Because when you have dissociative identity disorder, they are different people. Inside our head, in the inner world, it's like seeing different people. Like if you go out to the mall and you see people you never seen before, that's what it's like inside. She is her own person. Whether we share a body or not, inside here, she is her own person. So I will talk about her like she is a person, because she is, and we just, I won't do that. But we ultimately got evicted, and we moved into our new house. And ever since then, a lot of the times, for a while, we would get, that is your fault, your mom works so hard, you always stress out your mom, she doesn't deserve this. Horrible things said, or you're faking it, how you just want to cover your ass. No, I don't, because honestly, if I did remember, I would have taken whatever consequence I could. If I even had the money, I would have paid the person back out of my pocket, but I didn't, and my mom had to pay out of pocket, had to get humiliated and scolded at, and take responsibility for her mentally ill daughter, which is me. And that is something that is so heartbreaking, and something that I will never be able to take back. And this falls perfectly into it wasn't me, because back then, that's exactly what I said to my mom. It wasn't me. I didn't apologize, even though I should have. I didn't take the responsibility that I should have, even though now, I like, as the co-host and as Evelise is the host, we do take responsibility, because that was something that we should have watched out for. And we didn't. That was trust that we put into a little, and that was something that we shouldn't have done. But we did. And it was a very horrible thing. It was a very bad lead in judgment, and even now we do have our bad days, but ever since then, we got back into therapy, we got put on a medication. Even though we don't take any medication now, we did work ourselves to get back into a good mindset. The point of it being is that you always have to take responsibility. That's coming from me. It is not a scapegoat. Once you start accepting and acknowledging your other alters, and once you build bridges and connections with them, you are responsible for them. You are responsible, just like your mother is responsible for you. We are responsible for our other parts, no matter how much trouble we get into. And for me, having negative alters, like a persecutor, an introject, and a hypersexual alter, which we just developed, it's hard. It's hard keeping them in place. It's hard. And if you know anyone with DID, talk to them. Help them. Give them patience and stability, because inside their head, inside my head, sometimes I can't turn it off. Sometimes I can't stop the feeling of guilt, the depression, the anxiety. Sometimes I can't stop it. And sometimes it may be harder for the rest of us. The point is that, the it wasn't me syndrome, it happens. Everyone has a bad day. That is not an excuse for bad behavior. And I might be explaining this all wrong. I should have scrounged up facts and made this more informational, but this kind of became a more of a rant / story time, and I kind of, feel really bad, but I just wanted to talk about an experience, because not all, even though DID is a disability that can be made into an ability to do better, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. It gets very dark upstairs, and a lot of people think, you know, that don't have enough experience think that, you know, it should be fun. But even fun doesn't come for free, like. So, I hope you got something out of this video. I'm sorry that this wasn't what it was supposed to be, but I'm glad we got to talk, you know, because it's always good to talk, you know, talk about your feelings, talk about it, connect with people, help people understand. Don't turn, like, if you have a question, it's okay to ask, and it's okay to ask for help. And that's actually something that took me a while to learn, to ask for help out loud. And I think it's like that for a lot of other people. And, well, you know what to do. So, okay, everyone, I'm sorry about this long, awkward rant. I'm sorry that this was not very, like, informational in the aspect of how I wanted it to be, but hopefully I can get up another video that will be 10 times better within the week and work other things out. But in the meantime, help me spread DID awareness, and you know what to do. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's grow together. Bye!